Yo, FPL community, welcome to Proper Things, the FPL show brought to you by the TT FPL Pro-League, episode 35. It's your boy Michael back again this week with another episode. And we have better news this week than we had at the end of the double game 34, as currently I'm on a mini green arrow. And if you take a quick look at the points so far that I've gotten, you could see Senesi played one of those knocks that the streets will always remember for me this week with a massive 13 points. The boy Bukayo Saka also chipped in goal, assists, and 2 bonuses. So those two look like prime Matthew Hayden and Adam Gilchrist for yours truly this week. Pullman out of the hole, and of course new arrival Isaac, who came in this week for Darwin, delivering a massive haul as well. So not bad to start the week so far, but of course we have that big crunch match this Thursday between Son captainers versus the Palmer captainers as Chelsea and Spurs lock horns. So we bound to see a windfall of points, or maybe both defensive keep it quiet, which is highly unlikely. But nonetheless, this episode we have a little teaser to show how the TT FPL Pro League shaping up. Of course, we have all the picks you need in the Proper Things segments, but before we get to that, we have to of course recap the review of Game Week 35. To kick things off in Game Week 35, we had a shock 2-2 scoreline between Liverpool and West Ham, effectively ending the Liverpoolians' dream of an English Premier League title. And Mo Salah coming on late with some drama there, with Klopp no points, on just the 1 point, no returns for Mo Salah in that encounter. Fulham and Crystal Palace drew 1-1. Mateta finally kept quiet. Manchester United could also only muster a 1-1 draw with Burnley. No returns for Bruno Fernandes, but 2 bonuses meant he finished the day on 4 points. Newcastle run riot on Sheffield United. Well, 5-1. Isaac hauling, Gordon keeping up the pace. No clean sheets though. Wolves defeated Luton 2-1. And we had a 1-0 win for Everton versus Brentford. Pickford and Brantwaite stay hot in defense for their owners. Aston Villa and Chelsea drew 2-2. Palmer missing the late chance, could only muster 2 points, but Madueke starring. Bournemouth won 3-0. No returns for Solanke, but against Senesi with a big knock of 13 points. We had a massive result for the red side of London with Arsenal defeating Spurs 3-2. Mistakes by Raya and a penalty causing Arsenal to lose the clean sheet, but Bukayo Saka goal and assist, Kai Havertz goal and assist, and 3 bonuses, starring Son with the late penalty. And finally, Manchester City won 2-0, Haaland off the bench for 1. De Bruyne had 2 assists, but Phil Foden didn't make the squad due to illness, so hoping he's back for Game Week 36. And that concludes the review for Game Week 35. And now with the reviews firmly in the rear view mirror, we shifting gears now to the Proper Things segment. And here is where you get all the advice about the assets that you need to know ahead of the crunch Game Week 36 game week. Because you know now we at the finish line, you could see the end, and you need to get those picks and those assets correctly to end the season strongly. And of course we have the categories, and again, for the new viewers who not accustomed hearing them, the Proper Things category is those players that should be in your team now and going forward, as they're the centerpieces to FPL. Needle movers are for the aggressive players looking to rise rank immediately and need that quick injection of points. Spilt milk means they've overstayed their welcome and need to leave your team immediately, and wondering picks are the players you should keep a keen eye on, with thoughts of bringing them in ahead of the double Game Week 37 and to close out Game Week 38. So we're kicking things off with the defenders, and last game week I recommended White as the Proper Things defender pick. As you know, Arsenal has been the best defense in the entire league. Unfortunately, late mistakes in the second half by Raya, giving Romero the goal for the easy one-on-one conversion, and then the penalty by Declan Rice meant that Ben White got -1 from his normal 2, ending on 1 point. No attacking returns, but he did look spirited in that game, and Arsenal were cruising 3-0 up, so Ben White didn't really need to go in the attacking half to get those returns. But this week for the Proper Things defender pick, we're running it back with Ben White versus Bournemouth at the Emirates. I believe that Arsenal have one of the best chances of returning a clean sheet. And we know what Ben White is in the attacking half of the Arsenal team. So he's been delivering crosses, he's been scoring goals, he's been lucky to get some goals as well. And now at a 6 million price tag, if you have him, you keep him. If you don't have him and you're looking just to pivot away from one of your Arsenal defenders, maybe you just burn a transfer here ahead of a free hit 37. But I do think Ben White has one of the best utility in the Arsenal defenses this game week. Have him ahead of Saliba and Gabriel, but if you have those two as well, they are also great to have, as well as Raya in defense. So that Arsenal defense has been killing it lately, but I think Ben White is the best defender of the bunch when it comes to the Gunners' backline. The needle mover. Last week we had a home run with Vardiol getting the clean sheet, 3 bonuses, and of course the goal from the Kevin De Bruyne corner. And this week against Wolves, we're running it back again with Vardiol, not at the 4.9 price tag, but at the 5 million price tag. And he's a needle mover again this week because next week with the City double, I believe that a lot of people will be jumping on the Vardiol train, as the Edison train seems to have stalled with a pending injury. So if you're looking for that Manchester City defensive cover for the double and the great matchup versus Wolves in Game 36, I think Vardiol is your guy. He's not going to break your pockets. He's a budget at 5 million at this stage, and we've seen him picking up not only the attacking returns, but the goals. He's been scoring goals at a rapid clip. When I mean rapid, I mean he has 3 goals just in the last, April month. So you have to get Vardiol in ahead of closing out the season, and at 5 mil, he comes in at an absolute bargain. Spilt Milk is a guy that, started off the season hot, and in the mid part of the FPL season, everybody were rushing in for him. But now at 4.4 million, I think it's time to hop off the Alfie Doughty train. Luton has no doubles to close the season. They haven't been playing well. The attacking returns have absolutely dried up like a drought there now for Alfie, and Luton have been conceding 2, 3, even 4 goals in recent weeks. So I don't think that there's much utility for Alfie for the last 3 weeks, 36, 37, or 38 to close out the season. And if you have the opportunity to flip him, even if it's for a Brantwaite or a Maguire, I would recommend. I think it's time to jump off the Alfie train. 4.4 million, again, your options are quite limited, but I still think you could squeeze out if you're penny pinching, maybe a Maguire ahead of his double in Game 37. So Alfie is your spilt milk defender pick. And finally, the player the defender I'll be keeping a keen eye on this week with thoughts of bringing him in ahead of Game 37 is Marc Cucurella of Chelsea. I know, he scored an own goal versus Arsenal. Chelsea conceded 2 versus Aston Villa. So what's the point of marking Cucurella down, who comes in at a $4.8 million price tag? Well, firstly, Chelsea do have a double in 37. And Cucurella has been one of the more attacking fullbacks in the league, and especially in Chelsea's new defensive setup. Of course, we have to keep an eye out to see if Chilwell is trying to make his way back, but the way Cucurella has been playing, especially in the attacking ends, may just give Cucurella the edge to close out the season. And if you're looking for that differential and have a Chelsea spot open, I know that Gusto is still flagged and he's a spot cheaper, but I think Cucurella could be that differential that gets you that edge to close out the season. He only lands on the wondering pick segment, this week, because Chelsea have to finish up versus Spurs, and I want to see how he does this weekend ahead of his double in 37. So if you're looking for a Chelsea defender, I think that Cucurella is definitely one to keep a keen eye on. And now with the defenders handled, we move now into midfield, and the proper things midfielder pick is the guy who was in the needle mover segment last week, returned 2 assists, 2 bonuses, and 2 points, so 10 on in total. I'm speaking about Anthony Gordon from Newcastle coming at 6.3 million. I know the first thing people are going to say is there is this narrative that Gordon cannot perform away from St. James's Park. And that narrative seems to be reading through this season, as his home and away splits are drastic, to say the least. As we could clearly see that he is a flat track bully in the St. James Park Stadium, and away from home it just doesn't seem to be happening for Anthony Gordon. But I think he bucks that trend this game week, and heading into a double for Newcastle and a great schedule to close out the season, I think Anthony Gordon has to be in your team when it comes to his form, and at 6.3 million, he's still within the enabler price range. So if you have Anthony Gordon in your team, you're definitely starting him this week, regardless of that narrative. If you don't have him, maybe make a move for him this week. Take the shot, I should say, versus Burnley, and have him ready for the double. At 6.3 million, again, he's not going to break the bank. So Anthony Gordon is your proper things midfielder pick. In midfield, in the needle mover segment, it's a guy who has absolutely turned his career around at Arsenal. At the beginning of the season, guys were saying that this guy is a flop. Now he's the toast of the town. They call him Cobra Kai, King Kai, $7.5 million Kai. And I'm speaking about, of course, Kai Havertz from Arsenal. Again, you need to move a pick if you're looking for someone to give you that added differential points to shoot you up the league. I think he is the best candidate this week with the cherries on top to come to the Emirates. Arsenal have been in scintillating form since the beginning of 2024. Kai Havertz being the hub of that since the beginning of March. So he's carried on that hot streak for the last 2 months. And I just looked at all the wildcard teams and the data from teams that wildcarded, and they seem to be selling off the Arsenal assets at a rapid rate because the Gunners don't have a double in 37. A lot of people didn't have Bukayo Saka or Kai Havertz, so you're lacking a Arsenal midfielder altogether. I think a game versus Bournemouth, we could see Arsenal just do what Arsenal's been doing since the turn of the year and run up the scoreline. Kai Havertz being the number 9, so he is absolutely a straightforward needle mover pick this week. Again, at 7.5 million. Narrowly beats out Saka, but Saka is more highly owned and still in a lot of teams. So Kai Havertz beats him out there. Unfortunately, in the spilled milk segment, it's a guy who promised a lot in 34 and delivered on that promise after scoring versus Liverpool in Game Week 33. Unfortunately, an injury kept him out for Game Week 35, and with Game Week 36 versus United and a tough schedule to close the season, Eze lands on the spilled milk list. At 6.1 million, you could still keep him around because he has utility at that price tag, but I think there are a lot of midfielder options that have moved ahead of the Englishman to close out the season. So unfortunately, I think that Eze has to be the nailed on spilled milk midfielder pick, especially with guys like Foden, Bruno, etc., so highly owned and having more favorable fixtures to close out the season. Again, Crystal Palace having no double game weeks is absolutely hurting Eze's value, so he lands on spilled milk list for Game Week 36. And finally, the midfielder that lands on the wondering pick list is a guy who's coming in at 5.3 million, who has another fixture this game week on tap for Thursday, and I'm speaking about Madueke from Chelsea. I know a lot of people haven't even spoken about this guy for the entire FPL season, but we're not speaking about the class of the player, but form and his role in the team. We know Madueke is a guy who's been fighting for penalties of late with Ice Cole Palmer. But if you look at how he plays the game, he's one of those players that is a shoot first, ask questions later. I always say that they are great fantasy players and great real life players. I think Madueke might be a better fantasy player than a real life player. He's one who's not ashamed to take that shot on or deliver the ball in dangerous places. I mean that he gets a lot of Chelsea fans upset with his overall gameplay, but for fantasy reasons, I think he could be a guy that gives you that edge or that leg up to close out the season, especially with a double for Chelsea and an enticing double in Game Week 37. However, I don't recommend buying ahead of Game Week 36. I think you just keep a close eye on how he goes, if he retains his spot, and you can make a move to 37 to pair him up with his compatriot there, Cole Palmer, his teammate, ahead of that Chelsea double. And now with the midfielders done and dusted, we move into the forward line, and the proper things forward pick has to be the guy who has a great fixture versus Burnley in Game Week 36 and a double in Game Week 37, the Swedish Viking Alexander Isak, now coming in at 8.3 million. Isak returned 13 points in Game Week 35, 2 goals, bonuses, and of course 2 points. And Isak has been on a tear since the beginning of the month. I expect him to carry it out until the end of the season. I know the return of Callum Wilson is going to put some doubt in the back of people's minds, but with the season so close to the end, I think Isaac sees it out and absolutely puts on a show for us to remember. He's still chasing the Golden Boot, but he's not one of the favorites, but he's up there. So maybe that boosting output of goals could benefit him for the Golden Boot as well as you with your fantasy points. So Alexander Isak has to be a proper things forward pick for game week 36. A needle mover forward pick is a guy who, well, is the most expensive player in the game, and it's probably his lowest ownership for quite some time. I'm speaking about Erling Haaland now coming in at 14.1 million. That's just 0.1 more than where he started the season, telling you how he's dropped off in price. The injury, of course, causing that, while Carders may be moving away from the Norwegian. But I think with him returning to the lineup off the bench in game week 35, and not only that, scoring a goal, looking sharp, he could absolutely finish the season in a record-setting pace with a game versus Wolves in game week 36 and a double in 37 with Manchester City in the thick of the title race. They'll be looking to their star man to provide that goal output to keep them up, well, as the favourites and as the title winners come the end of game week 38. And with him not being as highly owned as he was for the entire season and not being an asset you could easily get back into your team, I think this is a great week to have Haaland in there as your needle movers. I believe he returns versus Wolves, and before the big input of Haaland come the double in 37, this could be an opportunity to get your leg up on your opponents. While you're bringing in players, of course, somebody has to land in the spilled milk segment, and that, unfortunately, is the Englishman Dom Solanke coming in at 7.3 million. Bournemouth have a tough schedule to close out the season, as well as no doubles as well. We saw Bournemouth just dispatch a 3-0 win versus Brighton, and Solanke wasn't in the returns. While I do like Solanke and what he's been doing this season, I think, unfortunately, he has to make way for the more popular options, because if you're going Haaland, Isaac, you might not be able to fit in the $7.3 million forward. You might have to go a little budget friendly in order to get the other players you're looking for, especially if you're looking to bench boost in 37. So with that in mind, unfortunately, Solanke lands on the spilled milk forward list for game week 36. And finally, the forward that I would want to keep an eye on, and the wondering pick forward, is João Pedro coming at 5.2 million. While I do not recommend to buy this player ahead of game week 36 if you don't have him, he's one of those budget-friendly forwards that has the double in 37. Now, Brighton have been absolutely stinking out the place for the entire month of April. I mean, the only goal they've scored was the own goal from Burnley's keeper, Muric, I believe. And that just tells you the state of affairs down here with the Seagulls. Again, I just want to see if João Pedro could show me some signs of life in game week 36 ahead of his double in game week 37, because we know he's locked in on penalties. Brighton has a friendly double, and he has a friendly price coming in at 5.2 million. So João Pedro just makes it on the wondering pick list for game week 36. And that wraps up the proper thing segment for game week 36. I would like to hear what you all think about the picks this week, so you could go down there in the comment section and let me know if you're all vibing with the picks, if you're all not vibing with the picks, if you have better alternatives, or if you think that I've gotten them completely wrong. And while you're there, leaving your comment, you can like the video, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. I want to thank you all for the support so far. It's been great doing the show. Nearly now for the entire season, I've been having a ball, and we're hoping to close it out strong. So, waiting to hear your replies down there in the comment section. And now that you have all the information that you need to have a successful game week 36, I know that there may be one more dilemma that most managers have, and that's who to put the coveted armband on. Well, have no fear, as Captaincy Corner is here. Here on Captaincy Corner, I give you the 5 best assets that you should put your armband on this week. And to kick things off, my best captaincy pick for this week is Kai Havertz of Arsenal versus the Cherries at the Emirates. We know that Kai's been standing on business since the beginning of March, a spectacular March and April for the German. I expect him to carry that form through, and we know that Arsenal are trying to match the championship that they haven't held for quite some time, and he's been at the hub of everything happening. Kai is very, well, not very lowly owned, but a lot of managers moved away from Kai with their wildcards, who wildcarded. A lot still favor Saka. So if you're looking for something a little different and you already have Kai, I think this is the best week to put the armband on him. Coming in second is Alexander Isak of Newcastle. He's been playing amazing football of late. He's been racking up the points, the goals, and is trying to steal maybe that golden boot away from Erling Haaland and Cole Palmer, as he's forcing his way into that conversation. Again, Newcastle have been a totally different team when at home compared to away from home. They do play Burnley away from home, but I think that this shouldn't affect Isak's output, and he lands at number 2 on captaincy corner for Gameweek 36. In the middle of the pack, straight at number 3, it's Erling Haaland of Manchester City, of course. Well, City do play Wolves at the weekend. We saw how Haaland come off the bench and score. Looked a little more sharp than he has since returning from that stress fracture, hoping that he could keep the form and momentum going as City look to match a 4th championship in a row. And I think Haaland has a big part to play. So he lands in the middle of the pack this week, coming at number 3. Number 4, it's Bukayo Saka of Arsenal. So the second Arsenal asset to make the list. I think Saka is beaten out by Havertz this week because I think Havertz gives you more utility in the forward line. He's been providing points at a rapid clip. But Saka, you have to remember, is locked in on penalties, and he does swing in the corners as well on one side of Arsenal's attack. So the Arsenal have been scoring a lot of goals from corners with Ben White doing his things on the goalkeeper there to distract them, and the goals have been coming in. Saka has been reeling in assists, and he's locked in on penalties. So unfortunately, I don't think he's a better asset than the 3 guys above him, so he could only land on 4 this week. And number 5 is the cheekiest of cheeky balls, as I love to give a cheeky ball pick to everybody who, looking to take that wild swing. And if you have this guy in your team still, I think this is the week you could put the armband on and just say you're going for the Hail Mary. And that's Mo Salah from Liverpool. And I know there was a bust up with Klopp. There's a lot of rumors in the air saying that he could be done for the season, he could be benched for the season and all those stuff. But with Spurs on tap in Gameweek 36 and with managers transferring Salah out at a rapid clip, if you have the belly or the moxie, as they say, to hold on to Salah, I think if you're looking for something way different or a cheeky ball pick, Mo Salah could give you that differential that absolutely ignites your season to end it. So maybe you're a little pessimistic on the pick, but again, I have to give you all the cheeky ball at number 5, and this week it lands on Mo Salah. And now with Captaincy Corner signed and delivered, I know we normally move into the segment that has the rowdiest group chat, but this week I could only give a tease, and I repeat, it's just a tease in the race for the 10K, as we know that Chelsea and Spurs lock horns on Thursday, and that matchup has a lot of fantasy implications, as we have Team Palmer versus Team Son, as a lot of captain armbands have been put on those 2 players. We have the little differential defensive plays, and of course the Nico Jackson plays. So the table could shake up a lot come Thursday afternoon after the 2 London clubs lock horns. So we could just give you a tease, because I promise that I'll show you all what happened in the latest update. So if we just look at the quick screenshot here of the table, we could clearly see that the race atop the table there starting to tighten up, as it's no longer just a 2-horse race, as Salim has forced his way to make it a triple threat. So Soberslads continuing his march towards the championship, the inaugural TT FPL Pro-League Championship. Awick in second, Salim closing the gap with White Rass Party there in third, Dr. Phil Foden making the leap there to just see if he could play for slips at 4th, and then 5 there, Midas Touch, unfortunately dropping 2 behind Phil Foden. So we look in there at the table, and we could see, if we go down, a little green arrow from your boy just climbing out of the early 30s and back into 27 with a little burst of points. So that's just a tease of the race for the 10K. Now, Next week, when all this game week 35 one single double game week wraps up and game week 36 wraps up, I'll have the update on TT FPL Pro League for the double game week ahead of the double game week 37, and of course the inaugural championship being crowned after game week 38. So stay tuned for that. I know to start the episode, I said that Saka and Senesi dogged me out of a big hole. So we're returning now to the 27th position in the table to take a look at how the Legacy 10X look in this game week and to see what moves I could make to try and get into the mix to end the season there. Well, at least to close out the season strongly and maybe, sneaking a May Major of the month now. So if you look at the team there, we're on 64 points, but of course we have to take away the hits so far. And we brought in Isaac, Fernandez, and of course Son this week, with Salah making way. We had Darwin making way, so the Liverpool boys making way, and unfortunately Eze was the man that made way as well. And what I'm thinking this week is that I need to get out of that final Liverpool piece of business I've been doing with Luis Diaz. And the guy I'm been targeting is one of my favorite players. He plays for my team in Phil Foden. Now I know that the defense as well needs some work, and I have to get rid of Dorothy. But right now I'm keeping an eye on the Edison injury to see how serious that is, because if I could get into the City defense with Ortega coming in for Neto, that would definitely be a move I'll be interested in ahead of City's double. But that will lock up the 3 City spots with Ortega, Foden coming in, of course, and then Erling Haaland. And I'm also eyeing Vardy ahead of the game in 37. So just a little food for thought there. Foden will be coming in this week for Luis Diaz, but I'm keeping an eye on the Ortega Edison situation to see who comes out the starting keeper with Edison on the mend from that injury. And now that brings us to the end of episode 35 of Proper Things. I hope you all had fun listening to me for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed all the segments and all the information we gathered and brought to you this week. Again, we have a little note that we still have the London showdown this Thursday between Spurs and Chelsea, so there might be little tweaks in the thought process. Hopefully all the players make it through without injuries. So I'll knock on wood there that everyone makes it out safely. Maybe that changes what I think about my team as well, but that is to be continued according to what happens this Thursday. Hopefully that Team Parma gets the points over Team Son, so I could shoot further up the table as well. So I hope you all stay safe this week. Don't forget to go and leave your comments if you're feeling the show, if you're not feeling it, if you have different ideas on the picks and whatnot. And while you're there, you could like the video and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate any support and everyone reaching out and watching the show so far. And don't forget to do proper things in all walks of life. I'll see you all next week.